Welcome to Voyage Daily Tech, the most important news personalized for you every day, supported by Voyage.com.
After listening to today's news, you'll know, first, how chronic illness patients are hacking Whoop trackers for survival, sparking a new quantified rest market challenging Silicon Valley. So we'll discuss why this user-led innovation matters and what it means for the future of the multi-billion-dollar wellness tech industry. Second, China's second-largest chipmaker, Hua Hong, achieves a 7-nanometer breakthrough, bypassing US sanctions to build a self-sufficient semiconductor supply chain. We'll analyse why this technical workaround is a turning point and how it could affect global semiconductor competition and US tech export controls. Third, why the price of a little-known metal called Ruthenium has tripled, revealing a critical supply chain bottleneck for the global AI build-out. This discussion will reveal how the AI boom's demand for data storage connects to a geopolitical mining crisis and what it means for tech infrastructure. Fourth, how a viral campaign against Enshittification is uniting over 70 groups to pressure EU and US policymakers to regulate big tech. In this episode, we will break down this transatlantic consumer movement and what it signals for the future of platform business models and interoperability standards. Fifth, Google quietly kills its crowdsourced AI medical advice feature, signaling a strategic retreat amid growing legal liability and safety concerns. We'll examine how the threat of losing Section 230 protection may impact Google's AI product roadmap and its entire consumer health strategy. The most unexpected news in the tech world today has to be this. Fitness trackers designed to push you to your absolute limit are being hacked by a growing community to do the exact opposite. For people with energy-limiting chronic illnesses like long COVID and POTS, devices like the Whoop band have become secret weapons. Not for performance, but for survival. Many of these conditions are invisible illnesses, notoriously difficult to diagnose, and often dismissed by medical professionals. So patients are turning to this constant stream of data as proof. They use heart rate charts and sleep logs to validate their own experiences and to show doctors, family, and employers that their debilitating fatigue is real and measurable. They've learned to crip the technology, using features meant for athletes to enforce rest and avoid debilitating crashes. Now, cripping has a rich history where disabled communities have brilliantly adapted mainstream technology for their own needs. Think about how early screen readers for the blind or adaptive controllers for video games started as user-led hacks before becoming standard features. This is another example of that powerful innovation, driven by a community solving a problem the tech industry initially ignored. They ignore the push to do more and instead use the data to do less. If Whoop's recovery score is low, they don't train lightly, they cancel their day. But using a tool designed for fitness to manage an illness has a fundamental flaw. One user said they got annoyed receiving alerts telling them they were doing a great job being active when, in reality, they were suffering. That frustration created an opening. We're seeing a company called Visible marketing itself with a killer tagline, activity tracking for illness, not fitness, while at the same time, the multi-billion-dollar incumbent Whoop is still targeting athletes and wellness enthusiasts. Visible is playing a different game, positioning itself as a medical tool and actively trying to get its service covered by health insurance. This is a battle over the very definition of these devices. Are they luxury gadgets or essential healthcare tools? Instead of pushing for strain, its pace setter feature sends an alert when you're pushing too hard, helping you budget your energy throughout the day before you run out. But that's not the whole picture. The real turning point came after one journalist who was paying over $50 a month for both devices made a surprising choice. As her health improved, she went back to a yearly Whoop subscription costing nearly $300. The detailed tracking from Visible was no longer necessary. The simpler, hacked approach was enough. This choice also highlights a growing tension in health tech over the role of AI. While some apps now use AI coaches, there are serious ethical questions about training AI on sensitive patient information and the risk of it giving dangerous, unverified medical advice. For some, a simpler tool that you control yourself just feels safer. And now this niche trend is going mainstream. The core idea of prioritizing rest is reshaping the entire industry. This whole monetization of rest raises a huge question. Is this a genuine shift towards holistic health, or is recovery just the next metric for the optimization obsessed to gamify? For centuries, wellness philosophies like traditional Chinese medicine or European work-life balance policies have prioritized rest without needing a single data point. Silicon Valley is now selling us a quantified version of this ancient wisdom. Tech giants like Garmin and Apple are finally rolling out features that give you credit for napping and warn against excessive fatigue. What started as a survival tactic for a few is becoming a wellness strategy for everyone, proving that sometimes the best way to optimize your health is simply to rest. Speaking of innovation, we now turn from user-led hacks in health tech to a state-led push in advanced hardware. A bombshell report just dropped in the global race for tech supremacy. China's number 2 chipmaker, Hua Hong Group, has reportedly developed advanced 7nm chip technology. This is a major technical feat. The most advanced chip factories run by TSMC and Samsung use something called extreme ultraviolet or EUV lithography machines. China is blocked from buying these. So the big question was, how could they possibly make 7nm chips? The answer is a clever and incredibly difficult workaround using older deep ultraviolet or DUV machines and a technique called multi-patterning. Think of it like using a thicker paintbrush to draw a very thin line. You have to go over the same spot multiple times with extreme precision to get the fine detail you need. It's more complex and costly, but it proves it can be done. This is a massive milestone. It makes Hua Hong's subsidiary, Huali Microelectronics, only the second Chinese firm capable of this level of advanced manufacturing, right behind the country's top player, SMIC. Now, you might be asking, why build up a second supplier instead of pouring all resources into SMIC? This move reveals a deliberate national strategy. China is building supply chain redundancy. By cultivating 2 domestic champions, it protects against a single point of failure and fosters internal competition to drive innovation faster. It's a strategy to make their domestic industry more resilient. The goal is clear: boosting Beijing's drive for technological independence and weaning itself off foreign suppliers. However, if you zoom out, you'll see another layer of strategy at play. According to sources, this breakthrough didn't happen in a vacuum. Chinese tech giant Huawei Technologies has reportedly been collaborating with Hua Hong on these 7nm technologies, creating a powerful domestic alliance to push the boundaries of what's possible without foreign equipment. The impact is already being felt. Shares in Hua Hong Semiconductor surged 12% following the report. The plan is to begin initial production of a few thousand wafers per month by the end of the year. When we place Hua Hong's expected struggles alongside the efficiency of a global leader, the economic challenge becomes clear. China's top chipmaker SMIC has struggled with its own 7nm process. Reports suggest their production yields are only around 30%. That makes their chips up to 50% more expensive to produce than those from TSMC, which uses EUV machines and achieves yields over 90%. Hua Hong will likely face a similar uphill battle, suggesting this is less about commercial competition right now and more about a state-supported national security project. What really brought this to a head was the news that another Chinese company, Biren, which was placed on a US trade blacklist and lost access to TSMC, is now reportedly using this new 7nm line for testing its prototypes. This isn't a coincidence. It's the strategy playing out in real time. What we are witnessing is the assembly of a closed-loop, sanction-proof ecosystem. You have a blacklisted chip designer, Biren, now able to work with a domestic foundry, Hua Hong, which is being supported by a tech giant, Huawei. This vertical integration is the key to China's long-term goal of insulating its tech sector from foreign pressure. This isn't just about one company's success, it's the formation of an alternative homegrown supply chain. While 7nm chips lag behind the 3nm chips in the latest iPhones or top-tier NVIDIA AI hardware, they are more than good enough for a vast number of critical applications like citywide surveillance, military hardware, and autonomous vehicles. As China accelerates its self-sufficiency mission, Hua Hong's new capability represents a significant shift in the global semiconductor landscape. We were just talking about breakthroughs in advanced chips. Now, let's shift our focus to a raw material that's creating a bottleneck for the entire AI build-out. Let's start with a single statistic that might just change your entire perspective on this commodity. The price of a little-known metal just skyrocketed from $560 an ounce to over $1,700 in a single year. The metal is Ruthenium, and it's become what one top analyst calls the new precious proxy for the AI build-out. The global AI boom is driving a massive expansion in data centers and cloud computing. That means more and more hard disk drives are needed, and a critical component inside the magnetic layers of those drives is ruthenium. So the digital revolution is directly fueling a massive appetite for this rare metal. Now, you might be thinking, wait, hard disk drives? Aren't those old news compared to faster solid-state drives or SSDs? And you'd be right, SSDs are faster. But the AI boom has created a data explosion so massive that cost becomes the most critical factor. Research shows that due to supply chain issues, enterprise-grade SSDs have become almost 16 times more expensive per terabyte than traditional hard drives. This is why data centers are building hybrid systems using pricey SSDs for active data and relying on these cost-effective Ruthenium-enhanced hard drives for the sheer bulk of their storage. As the head of metal strategy at MKS PAMP, Nikki Shields stated, investors are now expanding their positions, betting on Ruthenium's central role in the AI infrastructure race. But is this price surge purely based on industrial need, or are we seeing a speculative bubble? While the demand from data centers is very real, the narrative of Ruthenium as an AI metal has also attracted a wave of investors, similar to what we've seen with lithium and cobalt. The risk is that if prices are inflated by speculation, a sudden shift in technology could cause a dramatic price collapse. This is where the situation takes a more complex turn. While demand is surging, the supply is hitting a wall. Ruthenium isn't mined on its own. It's primarily produced as a byproduct of platinum group metal mining, which is predominantly concentrated in South Africa. This heavy concentration creates a massive geopolitical choke point for the entire global AI build-out. We've seen this before. The world's battery supply is vulnerable because over 70% of cobalt comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Our electronics are dependent on China, which controls 90% of rare earth processing. Now, AI infrastructure is facing a similar vulnerability, with its growth tied to the fate of a single country's declining mining sector. And the core of the problem is this: PGM production in South Africa is falling. According to industry leaders like Northern Platinum, there's been limited investment in new mines for the past 2 decades, creating a structural bottleneck right when demand is exploding. This isn't just about economics, it's about the hidden costs of our digital world. The pressure to extract more of this valuable byproduct could intensify already damaging mining practices. Research shows that PGM mining in the region is linked to significant air and water pollution, land degradation, and serious health crises in local communities. In a way, the true physical and social cost of building our AI future is being offloaded onto these communities and their ecosystems. The numbers paint a stark picture. The market is tightening so fast that research firm Metals Focus is now predicting a deficit of 203,000 ounces in 2026. This isn't just a temporary price spike, it's a fundamental supply squeeze. This incredible pressure is kicking off a technological race to find a solution. Seagate, for example, is pioneering a technology called HAMR, or heat-assisted magnetic recording, which could design ruthenium-free hard drives. At the same time, companies like Western Digital are launching large-scale recycling programs to recover these precious metals, creating a more circular supply chain. The insatiable demand from artificial intelligence is colliding head-on with a decades-long decline in mining investment. A metal almost nobody was talking about a year ago is now at the center of a high-stakes squeeze between digital ambition and physical reality. The physical cost of our digital world is one thing, but what about the cost to our user experience? A new global campaign is targeting just that. My job is to make things shitty. The official title is Enshittification. That's the opening line from a viral video that has just declared war on the way your digital world works. This isn't a joke. It's the spearhead of a massive campaign launched by the Norwegian Consumer Council to fight back against what author Cory Doctorow coined Enshittification, the deliberate degradation of the apps and services you use every day. It's a predictable 3-stage process. First, platforms are good to their users to get them hooked. Second, they abuse their users to make things better for their business customers, like advertisers. And finally, they abuse those business customers to claw back all the value for themselves, leaving a degraded service for everyone. Think about social media feeds becoming littered with ads, software updates that leave your phone lagging, and chatbots that supplant actual customer service. The campaign's director of digital policy put it bluntly, you wouldn't accept this in the analog world, but this is happening every day in our digital products. And if you think this is just a small group complaining, think again. In a move that is believed to be the first of its kind, the publicly funded Norwegian Council has joined forces with more than 70 groups across 14 countries in Europe and the US. Trade unions, consumer councils, and human rights organizations are all speaking with one voice. The situation presents a fascinating duality in regulatory philosophy. On one side, you have Europe, where this effort aligns perfectly with a focus on digital citizen rights, which led to powerful laws like the Digital Markets Act, or DMA, designed to rein in tech gatekeepers. On the other side, it exposes the US approach, which tends to focus on individual antitrust lawsuits rather than creating a broad regulatory rulebook. This transatlantic coalition is demanding that policymakers give consumers more power and foster real competition. One of their key demands is for interoperability, the ability for you to move your data and contacts from one service to another. This decision, however, brings both the benefit of user freedom and comes with inherent security risks. Creating open doors for users can also create open doors for spam, scams, and abuse. Researchers point to the OWASP API Security Top 10, which lists major vulnerabilities that can arise if this isn't done with extreme care. They argue the current decline in quality is not inevitable, with one leader stating, "Another internet is possible. The status quo is not acceptable for anyone." So what does a better internet look like? Researchers are exploring alternatives to the ad-based model that drives enshittification. This includes paid subscription services that prioritize you, the user, and even publicly funded or cooperatively owned platforms where users have a real say in how things are run. This fight has clearly struck a chord. The campaign's video has exploded online, racking up millions of views, with its accompanying 80-page report downloaded thousands of times. The message is resonating far beyond Norway, proving there is an incredible amount of public support to stop the deliberate enshittification of technology. Speaking of regulating big tech, it seems one giant is already feeling the heat. The story begins with a decision that caught everyone by surprise. Google just quietly killed an AI feature that was designed to give you medical advice from total strangers. The entire concept was built on a flawed premise. They were trying to formalize what's called lived experience and put it on the same level as scientific consensus. But this creates a massive technical problem. The core challenge isn't just the algorithm, it's the data. To train an AI to tell helpful anecdotal advice from harmful advice, you would need a gigantic pre-labeled data set of safe versus unsafe personal stories. Such a data set is basically impossible to create safely and ethically. When the company launched its What People Suggest tool, it claimed the AI would, quote, transform health outcomes across the globe by crowdsourcing tips. For example, a person with arthritis could see how other people with the condition exercise. But now, it's gone. An inside source familiar with the decision put it bluntly, it's dead. So what happened? Google's official line is that the feature was scrapped months ago as part of a broader simplification of its search page. A spokesperson insisted the move had, quote, nothing to do with the quality or safety of the feature. This language is a classic example of what some in Silicon Valley call the corporate memory hole. It's part of a fail-fast culture where companies launch high-risk experiments and then when they prove to be problematic, they quietly make them disappear using euphemisms like simplification or streamlining to downplay the failure. And believe it or not, this quiet removal comes as Google faces intense scrutiny over its use of AI to provide health information. A recent Guardian investigation found that another one of its features, AI overviews, was putting people at risk with false and misleading health information. These aren't just hypotheticals. Research has shown that these AI models can be easily fooled. For example, studies found that if you present health misinformation using formal clinical sounding language, the AI will often accept it as fact nearly half the time. It can't distinguish between tone and truth. So you get these AI summaries that deliver wildly incorrect information, like wrong liver function test ranges, but they deliver it with the same confident authority as a proven fact. And the stakes are enormous. That AI overviews feature is shown to a staggering 2 billion people a month. Following that investigation, Google removed AI summaries for some, but not all, medical queries. Actually, the real issue for Google is a huge legal landmine. For decades, online platforms have been protected by a law called Section 230, which says they aren't liable for what their users post. But when an AI doesn't just host content but actively synthesizes it into new advice, it might no longer be seen as a platform. It could be seen as a publisher or even a medical device. This would open Google up to enormous liability if its AI-generated advice causes harm. The FDA is already looking at regulating AI in healthcare, which could be a game changer. While Google publicly claims the removal of its crowdsourced medical advice tool was just a design choice, It happens at the exact same time the company is under fire for the safety of its other AI health features. Ultimately, this may signal a major strategic retreat. It's likely that Google is pivoting away from these risky, public-facing health tools and shifting its focus toward more defensible enterprise-level products like MedPal M2, an AI designed for hospitals and researchers. This move would let Google stay in the lucrative healthcare space, but in a way that supports doctors, not by giving potentially dangerous advice directly to you and me.
That's it for today on Voyage Daily Tech. Follow, share, and stay tuned for daily updates coming your way tomorrow.